What do you go by these days in 2023?
I mean, I go by all of it, whatever fits in whatever audience I'm in. At the core, I'm me, right? I'm Chris Anchetta. That's just every day I do my 1-2. I feed my animals, take them walking. I have a girlfriend. She's pregnant. I have starting a family. That's pretty much me. And then everything else is just an extension of me. And then many arms like an octopus, right? Like some days I'll rap, some days I'll MC, some day, every day I'm on radio. I just go by whatever fits the person asking. You know what I mean? Because people know me for different things.
Yeah.
Man of many hats, I guess you'd say.
When did you first get involved in one thing when you hear something on the radio or you go to school and there's somebody doing something at the gym or like a talent show, but it's another thing to hear something and be like, oh, I want to do that. From enjoyment to being a performer.
Yeah, it started young. Like I love music from when I was really little, right? We'd play cassette tapes all the time at home of like Kalapana or just the best like records, like Hawaiian records. That would be my first picks when I was little. And then we started moving into pop, right? Like pop was blowing up. I started liking Backstreet Boys. I was a major fan of Spice Girls. And a lot of my music taste came from what my uncles enjoyed because they would be the ones playing it, right? They'd be playing a lot of like freestyle music was big back in the day with Stevie B and
Debbie Deb, Trinier.
Yes. And everybody would love to slam the sounds and you just bump in. So I've always loved music, and music always gave me a feeling of a way to express myself, right? Like how I was feeling. I had a lot of emotions as a kid. So I would sing somebody else's song and be like, oh, yeah, I feel that way. I associate with it. I love this song. I remember when Regulate first came out from Warren G, me and my buddy David bought the cassette single from Tower Records when they were selling it for like 99 cents or whatever. And we popped it in. And we sat there and wrote the entire song out so we could sing it.
Wow.
Yeah, on paper. It was a clear black night, a clear white moon, Warren G's in the streets.
Hey, I don't have money for licensing.
Well, no more music. It's all good. And so from there, we had Dre Day. Dre Day blew my mind because there was a lot of swearing, and it was like, oh, we're not supposed to be playing this, but I want to play it. It was cool because it was very relatable because it was kind of poor growing up,
What part of the island were you raised up?
Nanakuli. And what got me into wanting to be a performer was when I first heard, it was 1995, I think. I was an intermediate student in band class. Now, Nanakuli High and intermediate both are in one school. So I was an intermediate in band class, and the Filipino kids who were like the cool hip-hop kids at the time, they would all be like into breakdancing and all the cool hip stuff. They were playing a record called Thuggish Ruggish Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony. It just sounded so cool. And they were so cool. And then at the time, I'm just learning about my Filipino identity. Where I grew up, it's all Native Hawaiians. I mean, the high school's in the middle of a homestead. So literally around is all Native Hawaiians. I'm one of the very few, literally, Filipinos in the homestead. So, and I see people like me, we're in high school, we started mixing around from further in the community. So we'd have all the Filipinos from Hakimo Road and all that. And they look like me and they look super cool. They're playing Thuggish Ruggish Bone. And I was like, you fitted this trip for the rum? Oh, I could do this, I can write my story, because again, I'm a very emotional person. So, and I felt like the way I saw the world, I wanted to share it because it was so, against the grain. I'm a Filipino person raised by Native Hawaiians. I felt like I was like a sheep raised by wolves, And then so I wrote my first rhyme in about 1996.
That's cool that it was Bone Thugs that gave you that click over.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, if they're explaining their experience, maybe I can apply that template to me. Where was the connection where original beats and original lyrics can come together? Did you have to leave Nanakuli and come and hang out with townies to get that? Or
yeah, well, I left Nanakuli to get original production because when you're young, you first like Um, I had met a friend who was in my school. He had just entered in sophomore year, and I think he was a senior, but he came from Aiea High School, so he was huge in the lowrider scene and hip hop. He looked fly as hell, and I was like, ah, and he had a little rap group, and they would record over instrumentals or whatever. And then, so I wanted to hang out with him so bad. Hung out with him. He encouraged me to do it. Wrote my first rhyme in '96, and within 2 bars, I dropped my first N bomb. Yeah, I know. This is like, I'm not kidding. Like, this is what was it? Let me tell you about life and how it is. Just trying to make it inside this rap biz. And from there, he corrected me right off the gate. He's like, you probably shouldn't say that. I mean, I know it sounds cool. They all say it. And you see on TV shows and everybody's cool doing it. But you probably shouldn't because you're not black. And I'm just like, okay. Common mistake. From there I learned. Do a bunch of like grad parties and just wherever I could get a microphone on. I wanted to rap. I wanted to battle. I did everything. And we finally got the attention of Cutmaster Spaz. We actually did a few radio intros for him for a radio show. And from there, he was producing a compilation album of a lot of Hawaii urban artists. So that's where I got my first original produced beat. And it was on his album called Spin City. And we actually got a single off the album. Out of all the songs that went on there, ours stood out the most. Recorded a music video, dropped a single. And I was only like 16 at the time. And I got to tell you, if we still had MySpace, I might be in jail. Because, this, like, we did a music video. Mind you, we're 16, okay? And we're mimicking everything we see on TV. And we just pick and choose what we like. We had our record label hook us up with some nice cars. We go to Sandy Beach, and we find girls who want to be in the video. In the shower, in bikinis, all our age. So like we have these little high school ratchets while we're being high school rap superstars. It was crazy. And it was all over MySpace. We had a little single called Jibba Jabbe. I don't think you can find it online anymore, but
challenge accepted.
Yeah. Right. Do a bunch of like grad parties and just wherever I could get a microphone on. I wanted to rap. I wanted to battle. I did everything. And we finally got the attention of Cutmaster Spaz. We actually did a few radio intros for him for a radio show. And from there, he was producing a compilation album of a lot of Hawaii urban artists. So that's where I got my first original produced beat. And it was on his album called Spin City. And we actually got a single off the album. Out of all the songs that went on there, ours stood out the most. Recorded a music video, dropped a single. And I was only like 16 at the time. And I got to tell you, if we still had MySpace, I might be in jail. Because, this, like, we did a music video. Mind you, we're 16, okay? And we're mimicking everything we see on TV. And we just pick and choose what we like. We had our record label hook us up with some nice cars. We go to Sandy Beach, and we find girls who want to be in the video. In the shower, in bikinis, all our age. So like we have these little high school ratchets while we're being high school rap superstars. It was crazy. And it was all over MySpace. We had a little single called Jibba Jabbe. I don't think you can find it online anymore, but
challenge accepted.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, that's we found that via Spaz. That's how we first got our introduction to produced rap music. That was strictly for us. Before that, always ripping instrumentals with the singles, because the singles would come with a song and the instrumental version, and so very hip hop. Well, in the 90s, we had a group called the Free Flowers, and all the names of the members of the group, when they had chosen their names, were all parts of a stereo system. So one guy was Echo, one guy was Vocal with a K because he wanted to freak it. One guy's name was Lyric. So it all part of the production scheme, right? So for some odd reason, my big ass decided to call myself Speaker. And then, and then they just called me Speaker at the time. You know, I was just a big subwoofer walking around. So it worked out. I mean, that was my name in the 90s. It wasn't until like I got a little older, maybe like my junior year or senior year, I had figured out Krystilez, because Speaker wouldn't get me the chicks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no way I can be like, "Sup, bang, my name's Speaker." And people would look at me so funny. "Oh, Speaker." You know what I mean? So I eventually decided that's when like jiggy hip hop was becoming popular. And they would always talk about Krystal, sipping Krystals. And they would twang it with Krystal, sipping Krystal. And I was still very hip hop, so I spelt it very differently and decided to call it Krystils.
It was Angry Locals kind of like there's all these folks that just kind of come together under the banner of Angry Locals, or was it a very purposeful, it's like a super group, you know?
It was a very Hawaii version of how things happen. It was a very good representation of how things happen here in the islands. Osnizzle was just recording rappers left and right, giving people opportunities to get records done. He was sharpening his craft as a producer. You know, we were all hungry-ish. Like, we've all done our own things, but so we all would record with Osna wherever he was. And there became a point that we were all just homies hanging out, and we all had a bunch of unfinished music. Osna was there like, "Well, I got 4 songs with Mike Trey, but he only has 1 verse done. I got 3 songs with Mox. There's only 2 verses on there. Me and Mox did one. There's an open verse there. Krystal's got like 2 songs here with just 1 verse. How's about we fill up the gaps?" Easy, right? Like, okay, so you jump on this, you jump on that. And we just like synchronized in the studio, like real quick. And we banged out an album out of just hilarity. You know what I mean? Like, he's a very good producer. So in his head is like, get the job done, right? I think. And so just you come here, finish this, you do that, and it just all synced up. We sat there, threw names around. Moxzilla came up with the name. It hit a ding with all of us. We're like, okay, let's do that. We got to do a cover. Okay, well, let's go take some pictures. We took some pictures, and all about doing this project, we just became really close friends, And even to this day, I think we're more like brothers than a group. Like, we've just like gone through so much fire together, And it all just started out of love of hip hop, right? And laziness.
Was there an intention to just continue doing it that way? Because how long has Angry Locals been an entity?
I think as of now, we've been together for like 10, 11 years. We've had breaks to live lives and, certain things happen, but we've never stayed out of touch.
Have you guys ever done a West Coast tour or just traveled the mainland?
We did one tour. It was self-funded. We saw a bunch of opportunities, decided to go loop them all together. We did a battle it was called the Lost Wages tour. We decided, let's do this tour. Oaks decided, let's bring studio equipment on the tour and let's record an album while we're on tour, just to kind of get the real vibe of it all. So we did a battle in LA, a rap battle. From there, we stayed at Ellie Mac's apartment at the time. She allowed us to stay there, so we stayed there for a night or 2, I think. Recorded a few songs with her. Drove down to San Diego, did the Phil Lam Festival, did a show there. And then we had to jet straight to Vegas because we had a show that night at some other smaller venue in Vegas. I forget what it was. I caught a speeding ticket on the way there. I panicked. I looked like a sissy. Like, there's a documentary on it on YouTube called The Lost Wages DVD, and we documented this whole thing. And when I'm getting pulled over, I'm like, bro, you don't even look gangster. Like, you look like you was ready to go to jail. You're about to tear up. Like, I was so sad because I didn't have a license, I think. Or I might have. I don't remember. I know it was excessive speeding, though. I was going like 130. And anyway, we do that. We did a show. Then we rented out, I got this timeshare for my mom, and we recorded all the local artists that we knew in Vegas. We recorded a full album there. We did Pure Aloha. And then at the end of the DVD, you got to watch. You got to go check it out. It's on YouTube, Angry Locals DVD. You'll see why we're probably never going to be invited to Pure Aloha Las Vegas ever again.